your grandfather,
Right, because
this is where the
now
building used to be, because the zone changed.
It's no longer
Yeah, but if you're not
R1.
touching the front of the building,
Yeah, but now it's industrial, and industrial front yard setback is 30 feet. So,
See, I'm pretty sure when you change the zoning, you lose that, we have to ask the lawyer, but I'm pretty sure you rezone a parcel, all that grandfathered in stuff is out the door, so you can't get a new building permit on an old building if the zone changed.
and Evan, I'm not sure.
I'm not positive
I'm
that,
not
if-
positive with that either. I mean, if he's not touching the front of it, that's.
Right, right.
how does that work when the zone is
No,
on?
because then the building becomes commercial. And it is existing, so wherever it sits, that was taken into consideration when the village board approved it, so
Yeah.
that wouldn't be an issue. And in theory, as long as you kept the same side yards, which it would, rear yard, I don't think is an
And
issue.
even with all the parcels marrying together, you still get that non-conforming use
Yeah,
status.
the only question that I really had was, can you have a residential house on an industrial property? If that, I've never seen it.
Evan, I don't
That's
know
what
if
the
they
boy-
automatically,
Because I know in Langenberg, there's a
And
lot
then,
of,
and as I
he's
said,
marrying them
there
into
was-
one lot.
I
And
don't
usually you
know.
lose
What
on
the
conforming status
application.
when you do that.
I think he has to,
Well, what is the zone, what does the code say for when it marries? I didn't,
It doesn't, it's silent.
it's.
I mean, everything is a unique situation, and you gotta kind of juggle around with it, but, well, I really didn't know until the original, the hearing, that was even part of this.
It
And,
is, but it isn't, because
Yeah.
it was zoned, it was rezoned
Right,
with the original,
quickly, and,
Right.
right, and,
between, before
and
it
again,
was
you
bought.
know, it's there,
And he's
but-
purchasing the property, but the site plan is for this property, it's got nothing to do with that property. And I don't know if it automatically
No.
marries, I don't know if it becomes one parcel
He was
now.
saying he was making it when he was marrying it in the last thing.
Well,
Well, then,
No.
once he
Because
does
he needs it for
that,
the sanitary credits.
What's
for the
his
health
health-
department.
what's
but
his
then
health department
once he does
approval?
that, he can't have an accessory building on it, he can't have that other building on there.
Or
So-
becomes
what's his
open
health
space for him when
department
he
approval
connects
gonna
it
be
to the
for
other
just the
building.
two
Right.
lots?
So, I mean, you really can't have,
There's a lot of,
basically, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
there's a lot of
You know,
juggling.
you can't marry a piece of
If
property.
that piece
You
was
can't have two
left,
buildings on it.
if that piece, if I had done it, and that piece was separate from this piece, I would have kept that residential. And this would become, and there would be
Exactly.
more variances required here,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
that would be it.
Right.
But now that it's all industrial,
Well,
How-
let me just ask you the devil's advocate question. Why can't we have our cake and eat it too on this? If we have that, the lawyer says that they would agree to say like a couple
Like
of
this?
years of. and
I mean,
then-
that's not gonna fly on like, I mean, it's either he's gonna keep the house or he's not. I'm hoping that one day it'll go away isn't. So you gotta look at it as it's gonna be here forever or it's not. Especially if he's gonna invest in the firewall's not gonna be cheap. He's not gonna be putting cement siding up.
because
You're talking about
I think you have to.
200 bird is a
For
decent
the
amount
record,
of.
I'd love to see that building go. It's an old, cruddy looking building, it's gonna be sitting next to a nice new building, and it's right here essentially on the
Yeah.
road. But at the same time, I mean, when you look right here in the beginning of our code, the first A, B, and C talk about slow growth, slow change,
Right.
and taking into interest, not just, private person gets a certain amount of help from the planning board. It's not like we just draconian go in there and slam it.
That's why I think we're debating too many issues without knowing. We need Chris Bianca, but there's so many legal aspects we have no real option on. I mean, I wouldn't vote on this right now without Chris's. If they think it's gonna move through, I'm never gonna see the attorney and vote, I mean, I'd have to abstain.
Something that's gonna help.
So, unless everybody else is voting for it, without the attorney needs to come in and at least clarify, is the application, the way the names are. Since he doesn't own the property, this is 100% he should be doing this without, there's a lot of
We
little
could
questions.
amend the applications.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Definitely,
We just need his
definitely needs to
opinion.
be amended.
I mean, I would vote on it without the attorney's opinion on some of these little
No,
pitfalls.
and we're
Because I
certainly
don't want to be
not voting
liable
on
for doing
anything.
something
We're
else.
certainly not voting on anything for a while.
Something
Yeah.
that will have, we need,
First,
For someone like
Final
Chris
hearing.
and Egan, who's done this so many times, new and savage, a lot of these questions, I think we'll answer pretty quickly on what our reach is supposed to be, what happens when things aren't addressed in the code. Just because it's not in here doesn't mean it doesn't exist. If it's addressed in the state or in different case law and stuff, there's just so much we would never know. They would know right off pretty quickly.
Next Monday is the public hearing.
Yeah, and then they're gonna be at that.
He has to be.
Something we can recommend that would really help them and help us, so we don't have to struggle with so many things, is let the outside
He
entities.
has to be, because I asked him to be here tonight, I kind of assumed he would. I didn't follow up, but I was told that he would be here. I didn't speak to him, I didn't try reaching out to him today. But he has to be here for that, and certainly we certainly have to talk to him before we make any vote.
It's something that's gonna help, like I said, let an outside entity like health department drive the beginning of this work here.
Right.
As much as we wanna try and tackle things regarding
I
that.
gotta read this again, I thought that was in here, that the planning board couldn't give an approval without the health department.
Yeah,
Right.
they need.
We wrote that in there, that we couldn't even approve the site plan without
Before
that.
this
So they
hearing
have
comes
to
up.
follow that.
They need to get a meeting back at the health department, rather than they're making their application.
Because the health department says absolutely no way.
They'll give us
He may just
direction.
make the decision to take that off the plan, so why they argue?
Correct.
But if they give it an okay,
I know.
Right.
the health department's fine, the fire code
Sounds like
says,
I'm already
you look at
shot.
the wall, it's fine.
Yeah, that's our
And
basic
the residents aren't
recommendations.
coming out
My
and
whole
forcing,
name
get
What
rid
will
of it.
improve?
It's not our decision there, we don't like it.
Remember
It's-
what Mendez said when he came in here, he's like, help me out, I gotta go to the bank, I'm running out of time.
Yeah.
So what we're really talking about, the nux of almost all these discussions is getting our lawyer to tell us how to write in the caveats, so that he has enough of an approval to go forward to the bank and get started, and we still can put all the caveats on this thing that
Yeah.
says your building comes down, or you do, I don't know what magic move you're gonna do to firewalls and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think he should be fine. If I was him, he's gonna have a building there one way or another. We're not gonna flat out turn it down, I think he can realize that. The house might not be, if $800 a month is his make or break to have his business, he might wanna start rethinking his business.
It doesn't come out to that
Yeah, not even, oh yeah, less.
after you take the taxes and.
But
But that's not up to
I
us.
still ask you,
And upkeep.
I've never been accused of being a humanist anywhere in my whole career, but I will tell you, I am concerned about that lady who lives there. I mean,
I think we all share that concern.
Yeah. The only good side is that there isn't a shortage of affordable rental housing in this area. And as much as we have to be concerned for her, we have to be concerned for him. If the health department's gonna tell him not to build because she's there, does he lose his business because of that
That's
house?
his decision, is based on the
Yeah.
health department saying, yes, you can keep it if you upgrade this, you tie into new sanitary, yes, the
Yeah.
building can stay.
I think
And
it's
gotta
not
be
our
in compliance,
decision.
Right, it's
Yeah.
kind of,
It's
leave that out
building
of our
code
hands.
and health department,
Yeah.
and then the people. At our public hearing, if there's 100 people in here screaming and yelling about it, we gotta take that into consideration. If nobody cares,
And
Yeah,
and
we're supposed to
you
do what the
said-
village
You said
wants.
that yourself too, Jeff. I mean,
Yeah.
we're here representing the public as well, not just one person, but the majority.
Right.
And if the majority, if we're speaking for the majority, if it's better that one building needs to be removed, then,
we're lucky,
you
we're the
know.
last thing. Health department's got the first say.
Right,
The lawyers got to say if everything complies. The public will have the say to drive what we vote on. Really, our opinion
That's the
doesn't.
order. In
Our
this
opinion
case,
counts the
particular
least.
case by case.
And we could still put in that restriction about so
Right.
many years.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
It's gotta be
and it may
done.
never come to
So they should
fruition,
build
but
the,
we
right.
could put it in
Right, but
there
it-
on
put
good
it in.
measure.
At least our conscience.
I'm more worried about the gas station. Restricting the deed that a pump station can never go in. The only issue with us giving the industrial zoning, it was such a broad zoning, because it was covering that, all these things that we had to have zones, because if we didn't, people could say we didn't zone for it, and could overturn the zoning. But in all the meetings, it was that this zoning would never expand, the industrial was never supposed to grow. Little did we know, in a couple weeks, it would grow immediately. So, if we thought they were gonna do this, we would have created another zone for auto shops.
What protection, Phil was talking about when we were talking to him a couple days ago, what protection does these little food sales places, like the mini marts,
Mhm.
what does that, how does that change these businesses up and down the street here who have installed these little mini marts? It somehow changes them from being a gas station or a service station to now being in a better, some kind of better position.
What, a
It's
gas
another-
station
it's
with a
another
mini mart?
business.
Yeah, the mayor was pointing out that up and down the street here, every one of the places that does maintenance or sells gas or whatever, and has surreptitiously, because
Right.
it wasn't supposed to do it, just like across the street where the gate's coming out of, that was once a maintenance bay or a
Right.
parts storage area, and they snuck maybe that's the wrong word, I don't wanna use words I shouldn't, but all of a
No, they
sudden.
had a permit from Brookhaven to do
Well, you
it.
have to apply for a special use
I
permit,
don't think so.
and whether or not there's a,
There's
whether or not there's a
POs for
permit
that?
on file is up to
But I got the
his
impression,
department
They
of
fought
does.
those things terribly in Brookhaven.
but I got the impression from the mayor that it was not
Because
to
you
the
needed-
advantage.
They made a big production about that.
Was that non-conforming?
I got the
Yeah, there's
impression it
actually a
wasn't
permit hanging
wasn't
from
done
Brookhaven
for
on
actual
Walnut
financial
Street.
gain.
Mhm.
It didn't make that much money for those businesses.
Right.
But somehow put them in a different, somehow or another, put them in a special place where it became harder to impose fines against them or to hold them to the proper business. Now you're mixing an old building that's in terrible shape, it's a gas station, it's a garage, and now all of a sudden it sells stuff. And Bill was telling us if you just have one shelf
Mhm.
with a couple of cans and a few boxes of old
That's
crackers.
agriculture and markets he's talking about. That's what all of it, everything down here goes on what they call is 60% packaged goods.
So does that somehow put those businesses now in a different category? That makes
It doesn't put it puts the business itself in a different category, but every one of them, from the new meat market to
Handy pantry.
the handy
Yeah,
pantry,
right.
everything is all agricultural. They don't have to go,
Mm.
what that does is they don't have to go to Board of Health for approval.
Right, because it's not under restaurant division.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Food
Same with the one across the street.
services.
That's not helping them pump gas though, that doesn't affect that side of it.
Yeah, I don't know, I only thought of it because you brought up the issue about pumping gas in these places.
Yeah, we just made the industrial code was so broad to cover so many things that they didn't want to see built. But they made it that way because there was only so many parcels and it never grew. It eliminated these things from coming into the village legal. Because if you don't zone something, that's why we have an X zone. If you don't zone for adult, they can say you never allotted for this and they can push themselves in anyway. Industrial was made in that way that, so the industrial wouldn't grow in this town. And now by giving it to them, they wanted to get them the service stations, which is great, but they opened up, and Gabe obviously isn't looking to do it, or this guy, but you opened up that parcel for so much more later on in life. So we opened that door so much, at least now we can cover it into deed and say, at least we know these will only be an auto shop and never, you know, if you have the deed restriction and their DC's not giving them a
No
pump station
dispensing
later.
station of any type or
You know,
so.
we don't need
No
one for
fuel
a gas
storage.
stations, that's
Well,
for sure.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was confused about what the mayor was upset about. It starts as one thing, becomes something else like overnight, now it becomes more complicated, and different rules apply.
Yeah,
You're
and
right.
things like that can happen, there's no way we can control it, it's stuff like a fuel storage, which is gonna need so many other permits, if we have that deed restriction, DEC's not gonna go near it, they'll never get it. So at least we can limit some of the heavy industrial that was in the industrial zone from never coming to these sites. Because being on those little gas stations, we knew they would never expand, and now we're increasing this industrial zone on much bigger properties than it's ever been on, which gives them the leeway to possibly build other stuff, which when the zoning was written was never really accounted for. We never realized that they would grow this zone. Like the X zone is never supposed to go anywhere. They could rezone, you know, allied food or whatever that to X tomorrow and all of a sudden we'll have that. I mean, it was written to never be here, but that doesn't mean they can't put it somewhere.
So,
Can I ask a question?
not really,
All right.
He got a thing though that
Right.
says it's a public hearing.
I'm sorry?
He's got a piece of paper right here and he lives right behind where it says this is a public hearing. So why can't he say something?
I want to ask
Noticed
something.
it wrong as the
Yeah, it's
public hearing.
noticed, it's noticed as a public hearing, January 27th.
Yeah, it was.
That was the
Yeah.
original one that was sent out, and there was another one sent out.
Well, that's the one he got, so.
I just have a question, is when the heck did this become industrial like that? Because I went to the last meeting and then they said there was gonna be a hearing on changing it, rezoning it, and
That was an easy question. They held a special meeting in the village
a
and.
special meeting. What did
Not
they
us,
say?
but-
Did they say to people that,
They must have complied
well,
to the law.
nobody heard about it because
What?
my
It's the
neighbors,
next day, how could they
my
have complied?
neighbors,
Yeah, but that's outside our realm.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
How are they allowed to do that?
I know, but what's your name?
Jason Rising.
Jason Reiser?
Rising.
Rising?
Uh,
Mr. Rising, they had the village board, prior to the creation of the planning board, had a special meeting regarding this site and the site 400 or 402.
Next door?
402 Neighborhood Road, Unicorn Motors, that was
Right,
here
I was at
earlier.
that.
Well, it was the same night, both parcels were changed to industrial that night.
None of them.
He was at the
He was at the
public
public
meeting the
hearing.
night before, and he wants to know,
No,
right, you were at the
Vote.
public hearing the night
The
before,
vote was
the
the night
next
we were
day,
created.
they
Right.
did a special meeting.
without
special
saying
meeting,
nothing to
right.
nobody? Or just, is this now?
Yeah, well,
They can do
unfortunately, at that meeting is when they created us, so it was before we were even here.
But
And I'm not sure
Because I mean,
enough.
I was threatened that they were gonna do this
Yeah.
a year ago by someone sitting here, that they were gonna rezone it, and it, you
The
know.
only doubt, well, it's completely outside of, we weren't even in existence when it happened. So the only people that would know is the village clerk would have to have all the information showing that they posted it the right way, and then the village board would be the only ones that can answer to you.
So would they have to post that they were having a special meeting regarding the changing of the zoning?
Yes.
I would say I think so, but
So.
I would have to say, I
I
would
got a
say,
feeling
I would
that
we
it's
say,
can't
not
really-
zoned properly or right. 'cause
I
that
would
was
have
not
to
noted.
say.
We
not,
can't comment on that,
but
'cause I don't know what
can't-
the rules
I
are.
can't comment on, exactly.
Yeah, we're not like, we're not specialists in those rules.
Yeah, you have.
You might be.
I have,
I have
said
said
the
the
clerk.
president.
The
You'll have
village
this-
clerk, the village attorney, and the village
I'll tell you.
trustees.
There's so many houses back here that,
There's
my
a-
neighbors, they don't wanna see this, and
Well,
they
Mr.
didn't even know this
Mr.
was
Rising,
happening tonight.
Yeah.
With all due respect,
It's not the time, right?
it's not the time.
When is the
Um,
time?
Next Monday,
But-
same time, 6
But it's
PM.
already zoned.
Yeah.
That's the
Well,
thing,
well, that's
that's
what
what
you
we're
gotta-
trying to
there's nothing-
fight, that's
there's-
what,
Do it right.
There's nothing,
that's what we think we're trying to fight is
there's
the
there's
change
nothing,
of the zone.
there's nothing we can do
And
about
they did
changing
that
the
already.
zone.
These guys can't.
And
The
we didn't
zone-
do it
the
either.
The zoning is done.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I mean, I
You
spoke up
can-
against it myself, so.
You can voice your
I
opinion
can tell
on the
you.
site plan, on the proposed building, but as far as.
You could go to your
change of
trustees, they're the
zone-
ones you elect
You
to
need
make
Go
these
like this as soon as
decisions.
I open my mouth.
Yeah.
There's two processes.
I'm gonna,
There's
Listen to Ernie, listen to Ernie, he's gonna tell you something important
There's
today.
two
He's a smart guy.
processes to change the zoning. One is a formal application, which is rather lengthy and usually takes with a tailwind a year. And there's public hearings and such on that. And then there's a second process, which is not that board, village board's own motion to change the zoning. And what evidently occurred, because I wasn't even aware of it, the village board did it on their own motion to change the zoning. Now, I would agree that most likely they,
Well,
It's a
I don't
public
mean to
hearing.
jump in, but I don't think that's true. It was posted.
It's a
it was
public
posted.
hearing.
yeah, no.
It was public hearing, because I remember the other
I didn't
neighbor,
notice right here, it's a
and the
public
other
hearing.
neighbor came over, because Gabe has given the guy 10 feet of his property that's illegally on this property, so it was noticed properly.
oh yeah, no, that's what I was gonna say.
No, the
David,
public
get-
hearing was noticed properly, was the
Okay.
special meeting noticed
Time
properly.
out,
Yeah, again,
time
that's
out,
not our-
time out, let's bring it back,
Yeah.
bring it back, please, and we're gonna speak to one thing at a time, okay? If you have any concerns regarding the site plan or the building, I'm more than happy to sit with you right now. I'll give you that opportunity right now, because it was published. But regarding how it was rezoned, there'll be no discussion tonight. That's a discussion that you have to have with the village trustees, I'm sorry.
We have no
And you're more than welcome, and bring your friends and neighbors to come next Monday as well.
Because the planning board, because zones industrial, we have a site plan, we need to evaluate the site plan on its
I
merit.
understand, you
We
already
can't
got,
take
got it
into
to run it.
consideration how it became
and I'm
industrial.
flabbergasted that it even got zoned industrial when we were kind of trying to not even make it go that far. There's a whole bunch of people back here that don't want to see it go, but I know that's not up to you, and
And that's a vision
They
from
did
the
that.
village board themselves. We
Yeah.
can only
under the table.
look at this plan on its own merit. So we can't say, well, our personal feeling is they shouldn't have done that, so we're not gonna approve it, because then we wouldn't be doing the right thing. We need to just look at the parcel without thinking of those
Right,
other
yeah.
things.
I understand now, but
Okay.
thanks for your time.
But if you feel that something wasn't right, I would definitely, you gotta go to your trustees and the village clerk.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome.
Do we have anything else? Prior to, other than the obvious questions
Really,
for
no, unless they need
Chris
me.
Bianco,
I figured they might,
regarding-
so I came tonight.
Oh, well, look, we can
his
ask him a
covenantal
question.
language?
He wants to be, since you came.
Uh,
This property says that he has variances he's applying for. Are they on your calendar yet?
No, this is for the Carmichael application?
Yeah,
No, I have not received that folder yet.
okay.
Okay.
And then you'll, I guess, obviously, will keep us.
Well, the variance, are you talking about the variances?
Yeah, because this needs variances, and again, in
But the
planning,
planning, but do they need them through the planning board
No.
to issue variance?
No, it's gonna be, the
I think they have to go
ZBA,
before
the
the
zoning board of
ZBA.
appeals will make that
yeah.
that'll be
And
presented
I
to
think
them.
we said that we won't approve site plans in the code until all variances are met.
Right, area variances, they have to go before the ZBA. I
Oh,
mean, we-
area, okay.
Yeah, area
We,
variances.
I think we can approve a use variance or a special permit.
Yeah, area
ZBA
variances.
usually does most of
But
the.
the ZBA normally handles
Yeah.
all of that.
There are special considerations. but-
Actually, yeah, I think you wanted that in there, but I think it was voted down. Sorry.
You can have whatever you want now.
Because you don't want them to have to go to two different boards, but I haven't, I think you overruled on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
I do remember that.
Yeah, so, but we can approve this until you approve it. So obviously, we'll continue going over it, but our approval will.
Well, I came
Lay it
tonight,
on
if
your-
there's any, I am more than, to put it out there to Mr. Gross and the board, congratulations, the new planning board, but also if any kind of interdepartmental needs are needed, I will meet with you guys at any time to go over any procedures of who should, what, the process of which case should be heard, and, go to us first, or you guys first, if there's some kind of thing that you guys want to talk about. I'm always open, and my board is always open for you guys to meet and discuss any kind of there might be a special case where you guys want to meet, go to us first, there might be, and that would be between the building department too. Mr. Broger said he would be more than to comply with that too.
Well, Yeah, and I think once we get through this, Chris, this one, at least this one with Gabe's Auto, and we'll probably have time between then and Unicorn's complete. We're gonna have a meeting, you, myself, Tim, and probably get Mr. Bianco involved, and we're gonna come up with a system.
Yeah, I would be more than
A
happy to
process.
sit down with you guys
This way
and we
here,
could discuss the
everyone's
process.
on board.
That way we're not stepping on each other's feet and we could proceed efficiently as possible.
Yep, that's our goal.
One of the points during the zoning committee meetings that I brought up is that things should not, applications should not be brought to the BZA or the planning board before other things are approved, such as health department or environmental. So if there's a big DEC concern, they should at least have the application in and some kind of feedback, and health department, because they would, so that we don't waste
Yeah, I
the
understand.
village's time
I could
on
understand.
something that is impossible.
Well, we also have to consider the resident and an applicant when they want to proceed with an application because of time frame of DEC could be longer than the time frame for
Oh,
our
DEC
two
is very
organizations.
long.
Yeah.
Two different entities. So, I mean, that's something that I think that the three of us will discuss and then we'll present it to the board, to each board, and if need be voted on. But sometimes, an applicant doesn't want to wait for the DEC approval before they come to the ZBA and the planning board.
Well, no, I mean,
So-
example would be, I want to build a whatever in the marsh.
Yeah, prelim approvals from
Sure.
how far will
Some-
have
Yeah,
preliminary
it could be on a case-by-case
meetings.
basis, and I'm sure
Yeah,
there's
it'll
some,
have to.
You
some,
know, if there's something
That's much
really
easier.
obvious.
you
We
know.
could do, but something like this house one, I don't wanna make this decision because.
It's not ours to make, it's actually out of our hands.
Yeah, We need to know what they say before we
Well,
can.
if the planning board already had voted on a health department approval before,
It's in the zoning code, unfortunately, so that's only something the village board can change. Technically, we can't approve a site plan. But we can, like we've been doing
well, that was my
preliminary,
question.
telling the guy, well, this is, if you got this, this is what we would probably do.
Oh,
at least we give
absolutely.
him a
Reviewing
set
it
of-
is not approving it, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're giving them at least some, sense of where it's going. And they revised, I think, that whole plan to meet a lot of our needs. And really, the only things in question are really not our decision to make now anyway.
And essentially, as far as aesthetics go, we would be dealing more with aesthetics than the BCA would.
Yeah, we don't.
They have not made, the village board
We
has
can,
not
we
made
can put
any-
restrictions on
Right, but the
properties.
village
Yeah.
board hasn't made any decision what type of roofs they want.
And we're gonna ask them
I
that
mean, they
in
told
public
me
hearing.
on the one they wanted,
That's a,
so I mean.
that's been a concern, we've been talking about
Right,
that for a while.
right.
that's what
We
this is,
don't-
the electeds
we don't
need
really
that.
And we're going to certainly bring that.
I have a general question.
Okay, well-
Or suggestion is, because this does happen in other towns and other villages. When an applicant comes in and they're even in for a work session or a review, whether it's preliminary or not, they do need to leave with something, whether it's the next day,
Right.
as staff recommendations, so that anything that we verbalized, that they're addressing in some manner, so that it's not all by memory or some type of minutes.
Okay.
So that at least when they make a next class submission,
Right,
they didn't
right.
leave number 10 off.
Mhm.
You know, they actually addressed it, or that may have purposely left it off, not
Right.
to slide things in, but they just may have forgotten, because there's multiple discussions going on, so it's
Okay.
important that that's documented as recommendations or suggestions that should be addressed.
That's a good point.
I'll offer this, and that is, I can deal with a little bit of emotion out of a resident or an owner who's under pressure, but I won't sit still for an architect who's paid, come in here and call anybody on the board, any questions we ask stupid.
Mhm.
That SOB had no right to
Right.
do that. I mean, because I don't know, I mean, I'll be the first to admit, I don't understand these.
What are you call stupid?
He was a, it doesn't matter, he had I think he could have phrased his comments better. And the man's paid, he's a paid
Mhm.
professional, he's paid to come in here and represent his client, and he doesn't have to disparage anybody on the board as we work our way forward. I'm less tolerant of that kind of guy than a homeowner or a business owner or a resident who's like this gentleman who's right behind there and we're missing. But not a paid dude who's coming in here, it's rendering a service.
Right, they gotta conduct themselves professionally and respond to the
You
questions.
got my blood up, and I apologize.
Sure.
But I don't,
Don't apologize. Don't apologize. Okay. Oh.
Did they said Evan?
What?
Did they say Evan?
Now, the
Evan locked the door on the way out.
third,
well, he's promised to have drama every time we come here.
the third is the,
It's going to be a
Final
public
hearing.
hearing on Gabe's Auto, yes, the final
Final hearing.
hearing.
Tim, I got a question for you. If we were
That's next
to
Monday.
work with a laptop, do we have internet connection at all? Are we
And
able to get
you got, what you call it,
Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi in here, and we have a cable that comes off of this TV. Plug it. As long as you have HDMI.
HDMI, I
You need-
understand, okay.
Okay.
That'll help us tremendously to look by sites over here.
Do you
Understand what
have,
Jason-
you have Wi-Fi in the, is it the village Wi-Fi
It's
or is
village
it the
Wi-Fi,
outdoor?
yeah, and then just put this into the back here.
Yeah.
because this
Thank you.
neighborhood road ain't going
You know, we're bringing in our,
That would
we're bringing in our own
eliminate
equipment
all
here now, Tim.
Well,
That's right, taking over.
no matter how you do it,
You gotta put it in your budget for a new
the
computer.
only way to
That's
save
it,
the
Bob,
good
that's what I'm
road
waiting on, waiting on that new budget.
is what happened.
We need to get a
That
hold of
was
mine.
Condemn every property,
Yeah.
level
We have a
the
motion
road.
to, motion to adjourn,
Fire.
Tony, second is Evan,
Yep.
we're out,
Yeah. I thought it was 9:10, but no.
7:46.
You